On the eve of the Democratic National Convention, our CBS News poll continues to show a very tight race in the 2024 presidential race. Vice President Kamala Harris is 3 points ahead of former President Donald Trump nationwide. But in those 7 key battleground states, which could go either way, the race is a dead heat. Joining us with more is CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto. Good to see you here, Anthony.
Good morning.
So what do voters tell you is most important heading into a pretty unusual Democratic convention?
So let's start by reminding everybody how we got here to what this is only can be described as a very close race. In fact, remember, the national vote doesn't decide the presidency. It's those battleground states. And if you unpack that and look at our estimates in each of those individual battlegrounds, what you see is close race after close race. That is because after Kamala Harris became the likely nominee, we saw a boost in Democratic enthusiasm. More Democrats saying that they were going to show up to vote. That boosts her poll numbers, and that continues to this day. We now see Democrats matching Republicans on that expressed likelihood to turn out. So when you watch the convention, look for them to try to keep that enthusiasm up. That's number one. Number two, on your question about defining Kamala Harris. So you see a third of voters say they still don't know exactly what she stands for.
Interesting.
Interesting, but maybe not surprising, right? Because this is all so new, this reset race. Well, that's part of the defining the space in which that contest within the contest to define her is going to be fought. And the other part, I think, on that is how similar or different is she to Joe Biden? Because Joe Biden was trailing in this race, right? But Democrats still like him. So we ask people, how similar is she? And the bulk of voters say they think she's mostly similar in policies and views to Joe Biden, but not exactly similar. And she does better among the mostly group. So that's that balancing act that Democrats are going to have going into the convention as well, Margaret.
Now, I know you've been looking at the growing gender gap. So does having a female at the top of the Democratic ticket now make a difference for women voters?
Well, I think it's going to be a hallmark of this race. So it's more women voting for Harris, more men voting for Trump. But the key thing is the why. First of all, you see more women feeling that Kamala Harris will be someone who fights for people like them than men say that. Men say that more about Donald Trump. That's number one. Number two, you look at the broader views on how people see the push for gender equality in the U.S. When people say it's going too far, they vote for Donald Trump. When people say it hasn't gone far enough, and especially among women, they're overwhelmingly voting for Harris. And then number three, look at that key issue of the economy. There's a couple of things here. One is that Harris trails Trump on the economy, on inflation, on the border, all key important issues. But among women voters, she does a little better on the economy and better than Joe Biden was doing. So women are giving her a little more benefit of the doubt on that. And I think that starts to show you if the Democrats can start to close that gap with Donald Trump on those key issues, that's probably where they start.
You mentioned the border. How much of a challenge is it going to be for Kamala Harris to overcome some of that doubt?
Well, this is important because for all the movement we've talked about in this race, the things that haven't changed, the border remains to the advantage of Donald Trump. More voters think that it would be his policies that would slow or stop border crossings. And then you look at Harris's connection to what people think the administration has done so far, and they see her as somewhat tied to it, but not necessarily a lot. Again, that's part of that space in which they'll be trying to define what's her record been and where would she be going forward? Another key issue, but I got to emphasize this, abortion, because that's something you're going to see the Democrats press a lot. And it also relates, of course, back to the gender gap and the women's vote. Harris has an advantage on abortion. Democrats have. 3/4 of women who think abortion should be legal say they're voting for her. So I think that's something, again, that you want to press. And it's that fight to define which issues are most important. And that's certainly one the Democrats are going to press.
Fascinating. Anthony Salvanto, thank you.
Thank you.